The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that surrounded Unity Prime like a crown. Inside, representatives from 850 species sat in their designated sections. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had 4 legs, others had none. But today, they all shared one goal: to cast judgment on humanity. Captain Han Jiho stood in the center of the chamber, his military uniform pressed and perfect. Next to him, Ambassador Kang Mirei held her head high despite the hostile eyes that watched them from every direction. They were the only humans in a room filled with aliens who had already made their decision. Counselor Velthar rose from his seat. His scales gleamed under the lights as he pointed one clawed finger at the humans. "They have been among us for only 127 years, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. In that time, they have colonized 43 worlds. They have built weapons that match our own. They expand faster than any species in recorded history. This is not normal. This is dangerous." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Jiho clenched his fists but said nothing. He had been warned not to speak unless asked directly. Kang Mirei stepped forward. "We have broken no laws," she said clearly. "Every world we colonized was uninhabited. Every weapon we built was for defense. We have traded fairly and kept every treaty. If our crime is being good at survival, then perhaps the law itself is wrong." High Chancellor Quinva, an ancient being made of living crystal, raised one hand for silence. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "The concern is not what humanity has done, but what humanity might do. Your species learns too quickly. You adapt too well. The Council fears what you could become in another 1,000 years. So you punish us for potential crimes?" Kang Mirei's voice rose with anger. "For things we have not done? Where is the justice in that? One. Velthar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We do not punish. We protect. The galaxy must remain stable. Your kind threatens that stability simply by existing." The vote began. One by one, species cast their judgment. The holographic display showed the count. 847 votes for exile, only 3 against. The few species who had traded heavily with humans looked away in shame, but they had not defended humanity when it mattered. Quinva's voice rang out with finality. "By the authority of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby exiled from known space. You have 1 Earth year to move all your people, ships, and stations beyond the Outer Rim. Any human vessel found in Council space after that time will be destroyed. This judgment is final." The chamber erupted in cheers from some species, worried whispers from others. Jiho felt his heart pound in his chest. 50 billion humans across 43 worlds. 1 year to pack up everything and leave. It seemed impossible. As the guards escorted them out, Velthar approached with that same cruel smile. The radiation storms, the spatial anomalies, the lack of resources. You will be extinct within a generation. The Council will not have your blood on their hands, but the result will be the same. Jiho stopped and looked the alien directly in his cold eyes. "You have made a mistake today. You think you are sending us to die, but you are giving us freedom from your rules, your fears, your limits. We will see who survives, Counselor." Velthar laughed. Brave words from a dead man walking. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Kang Mirei sent urgent messages to every human world. Emergency sessions were called. Plans were made. There was no time for panic, only action. When Jiho arrived at Earth's orbital command center, he found controlled chaos. Thousands of people worked around the clock, coordinating the largest evacuation in human history. Ships were being refitted for long-term deep space travel. Entire factories were being disassembled to be moved. Children were being pulled from schools. Families torn from homes they had lived in for generations. Admiral Park Hae-jin met him at the command deck. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "We have identified 50,000 ships capable of making the journey," she said. "Not all of them are meant for passengers. We will have to convert cargo haulers, mining vessels, even luxury cruise ships. We need every hull that can hold people and supplies." "Can we do it in a year?" Jiho asked. "We have to," Heejin replied simply. "The council has made their position clear. Stay and die. Or leave and maybe die. At least in the Rim, we have a chance." The months that followed tested humanity like never before. Every person had to leave behind most of their possessions. Family heirlooms, photo albums, pets that could not survive the journey. The weight limits were strict. Each person could bring only what they could carry in 2 bags. There were tears. There were arguments. Some people refused to leave and had to be convinced by friends and family. But slowly, steadily, the evacuation proceeded. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They would survive this too. Jiho spent the year traveling between worlds, ensuring no one was left behind. He visited the farming colonies, where families had worked the soil for 4 generations. He stood in the shipyards where workers loaded the last cargo containers onto massive freighters. He spoke to soldiers who would form the rear guard, making sure every civilian got out safely. On the final day, Jiho stood on the observation deck of the flagship Horizon's Hope and watched as the last transport ships left Earth's orbit. Behind them, automated systems began shutting down cities. Lights went dark. Power grids wound down. Humanity was leaving their homeworld to strangers. "Do you think we will ever come back?" Heejin asked, standing beside him. Jiho watched Earth shrink in the viewport. "I do not know. But I promise you this. Wherever we end up, we will build something that makes them regret this day. They think they have defeated us. They will learn otherwise." The fleet of 50,000 ships turned away from the light of Sol and headed into the darkness of the Outer Rim. Behind them, they left empty worlds and abandoned stations. Ahead lay unknown dangers and uncertain futures. But they went together, all 50 billion souls, united by exile and determined to survive. The Council had cast them out. Now they would see what humanity could become when stripped of everything except their will to endure. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving Council space forever, Jiho made a silent vow. Humanity would not merely survive in exile. They would thrive. And one day, the galaxy would know the name of every human who had made that possible. 3 years had passed since the fleet entered the Outer Rim, and those years had been harder than anyone imagined. The region was called the Dark Waters by the few Council explorers who had ventured here and quickly left. Now humanity understood why. Admiral Han Jiho stood on the bridge of Horizon's Hope, watching another radiation storm tear across the view screen. The ship shuddered as waves of deadly particles hammered against the shields. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. Hull integrity at 70% on decks 12 through 15. Commander Park Haejin reported from her station. Her voice was steady despite the crisis. She had grown used to emergencies over the past 3 years. "Reroute power from non-essential systems," Jiho ordered. "Get those shields back to full strength." The storm lasted for 6 hours. When it finally passed, the fleet had lost 3 more ships. Jiho closed his eyes and added those names to the list he kept in his head. 2,417 ships lost. Millions of lives gone. They had found no suitable worlds yet. Every planet they discovered was either too hot, too cold, or bathed in radiation that would kill them within days. The fleet moved from system to system, searching desperately for somewhere, anywhere they could settle. Food supplies were running low. The hydroponics bays on the ships could only produce so much. Water recycling systems were being pushed beyond their limits. Children were being born into this nightmare, knowing nothing but the metal corridors of ships that slowly fell apart around them. Dr. Yoon Dae-ho barely noticed the storm. He was too focused on his work in the science lab. For months, he had been studying the spatial anomalies that plagued the Outer Rim. everyone else saw them as dangers to avoid. Yoon saw them as puzzles to solve. These are not random, he muttered to himself, scrolling through pages of data. There is a pattern here. There has to be. His assistant, Lee Sun-woo, brought him a cup of coffee. The young engineer had been working alongside Yoon for weeks, helping analyze the strange readings their sensors picked up. "Doctor? You need to sleep," Sun-woo said. "You have been awake for 36 hours. Sleep can wait." Yoon replied. "Look at this. The anomalies are not tearing space apart. They are compressed fields of exotic matter. The energy readings are off the charts." Sun-woo leaned closer to study the screen. "If that much energy is compressed into such a small space, what happens if we try to tap into it?" "That is the question," Yoon said with a tired smile. "And I think I am close to finding the answer." The breakthrough came 3 weeks later, though not in the way anyone expected. Sun-woo was running a test in the engineering bay, trying to stabilize a small sample of exotic matter they had collected from the edge of an anomaly. The sample was smaller than a grain of rice but contained more energy than their entire ship's reactor. The containment field flickered for just a second. The exotic matter reacted, and suddenly space itself seemed to fold around it. Sun-woo stumbled backward as instruments went haywire. Then, just as quickly, everything stabilized. He ran to find Yoon. "Doctor, you need to see this now." In the lab, they replayed the data together. When the exotic matter destabilized, it had created a fold in space. For exactly 1.3 seconds, a connection had formed between the engineering bay and a 0.500 light-years away. If they had pushed an object through at that moment, it would have traveled that distance instantly. "This is impossible," Yoon whispered. "The Council's jump gates take hours to cover that distance." This was instantaneous. "Can we do it again?" Sun-woo asked. "Can we control it?" Yoon's eyes lit up with excitement. "Get me every piece of data we have on these anomalies. And wake up Admiral Jiho. I think we just found our way to survive." The next 3 months were a blur of testing and refinement. Yoon and his team worked around the clock, slowly learning to control the exotic matter. They discovered that the spatial anomalies throughout the outer rim were natural deposits of this incredible material. The very thing that made the region so dangerous could also be their salvation. The first successful test of what they called the fold drive came on a small probe. They sent it through a controlled fold and watched as it appeared 500 light-years away in an instant. The probe sent back telemetry, confirming success. The entire fleet erupted in celebration. But the real discovery came when scout ships began exploring further into the rim using the new technology. Commander Park Hae-jin led the first expedition herself, taking 5 ships into a particularly dense cluster of anomalies that had been considered too dangerous to approach. What they found changed everything. Hidden within the layers of folded space were pocket dimensions. Entire regions of stable space, isolated from the chaos of the rim, protected by the very anomalies that had kept the Council away. And inside the first pocket dimension they explored, they found 3 habitable planets. Hae-jin stood on the bridge of her ship, staring at the blue and green world on the view screen. Oceans, continents, clouds. It looked so much like Earth that she felt tears forming in her eyes. "Atmosphere is breathable," her science officer reported. "Gravity is 0.9 to 5 Earth standard. No signs of intelligent life, but plenty of vegetation and simple organisms. Admiral, this planet is perfect." Hae-jin activated her comm system. "Horizon's Hope. This is Commander Park. You are not going to believe what we found." When the news spread through the fleet, people cried and laughed and held each other. After 3 years of suffering, after losing so many ships and so many lives, they had finally found a home. Not just one planet, but 3 in this pocket dimension alone, and sensors indicated there were dozens more pocket dimensions scattered throughout the rim. Admiral Jiho addressed the fleet that night. His face appeared on every screen in every ship, and his voice was strong despite his exhaustion. "Today, We have been given a gift. We have found not just a place to survive, but a place to thrive. The Council sent us here to die. Instead, we have discovered wonders they never imagined. We will name our first world Nova Sol, in honor of our resilience and our hope for the future. The colonization began immediately. Ships landed on Nova Sol and began building the first permanent structures. Engineers worked to set up power generators. Farmers started preparing fields for real crops. Children ran through grass for the first time in their lives, laughing and playing under an open sky. Dr. Yoon Dae-ho and Lee Sun-woo continued their research on the fold drive. Each day, they refined the technology further. Each day, they discovered new applications. The exotic matter could be used not just for travel, but for power generation, for advanced manufacturing, for weapons and shields beyond anything the Council possessed. One evening, Ji-ho found Yoon standing outside the main research facility, looking up at the stars. "We could not see these stars from Earth," Yoon said quietly. "Different part of the galaxy. Different view. It is strange to think we might never see our old sky again. Do you regret coming here?" Ji-ho asked. Yoon shook his head. "No. The Council thought they were punishing us. But they gave us something valuable. The freedom to grow without their restrictions. Their rules. Their fears holding us back. Look what we have accomplished in just 3 years. Imagine what we can do in 30. In 300. Ji-ho smiled. "That is exactly what I am imagining. And when the Council finally realizes what they have created by exiling us, it will be too late." More scout ships ventured deeper into the rim. They found more pocket dimensions, more habitable worlds. They also found something else. Other species. Small populations of aliens who had fled to the rim to escape persecution or war in Council space. These refugees were primitive, struggling to survive. Humanity offered them help. Food, medicine, technology. In return, they asked only for friendship. The refugees were shocked by human generosity. They had expected to be conquered or enslaved. Instead, they were offered partnership. The first alien species to join humanity on Nova Sol were the Krell, a peaceful people who had been driven from their homeworld by a more aggressive neighbor. They wept when humans helped them build new cities and taught them how to use the fold drive. "Why do you help us?" their elder asked Ji-ho. "We know what it is like to be cast out," Ji-ho replied. "We know what it is like to face extinction. No one should suffer that alone. Besides, the galaxy cast us aside, but out here, beyond their borders, we can build something better. Not an empire built on fear and dominance, but a community built on cooperation. Will you join us?" The Krell agreed without hesitation. They were the first, but they would not be the last. Word spread through the rim that humanity offered refuge and assistance to anyone who needed it. More species came, drawn by hope and the promise of a better life. As the 3rd year of exile ended, humanity was no longer just surviving. They were building. Nova Sol grew into a thriving colony, with a population of 5 million. 2 more worlds in the pocket dimension were being settled. The fold drive technology was being installed on every ship, and humanity's new friends from other species worked alongside them, grateful and loyal. Admiral Ji-ho stood in the capital city of Nova Sol and looked at what they had built. Towers reached toward the sky. Parks filled with children from multiple species playing together. Ships came and went using technology that would seem like magic to the Council. "They meant to destroy us," Heijin said, standing beside him. "Instead, they set us free. Let them stay in their comfortable space," Ji-ho replied. "Let them believe we died out here. When they finally learn the truth, we will be ready, not as refugees begging to return, but as something they never expected, something greater than they could imagine." 25 years had transformed the outer rim from a graveyard into a garden. What began as desperate survival had grown into something magnificent. The humans who remembered Earth were now grandparents, telling stories of blue skies and oceans to children who had only known the stars of the Rim. Fleet Admiral Han Jiho was 89 years old now. His hair had gone completely white, and he walked with a cane, but his mind remained sharp as ever. He stood in the council chambers of Nova Sol, watching the planetary parliament debate the new colony applications. 3 more species had requested to join the Outer Rim Union. The Union. That name still filled him with pride. Not an empire built on conquest, but a coalition of free peoples who chose to stand together. Humanity had kept their promise to never become what the Galactic Council had feared. Prime Minister Choi Min-ji approached him during the recess. She was young, only 42, born on one of the colony ships during the Exodus. She had never seen Earth except in photographs. Yet she led the Union with wisdom beyond her years. Admiral, the Parliament will approve all 3 applications, she said. That brings us to 38 member species across 340 systems. Our population just passed 200 billion, Jiho smiled. I remember when we thought 50 billion was too many to evacuate. Now, look at us. The Council could never have imagined this, Minji agreed. They thought exile meant death. Instead, it meant freedom to grow. In orbit above Nova Sol, the shipyards worked day and night. The Phantom Fleet was being assembled, ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. General Park Hae-jin oversaw the construction, personally. She was 68 now but refused to retire, claiming she had too much work left to do. The Phantom ships used advanced full-drive technology to phase between dimensions. They could appear, strike, and vanish before an enemy could react. Their hulls were constructed from exotic matter alloys that bent space around them, making them nearly invisible to sensors. Their weapons could fire from folded space, hitting targets from angles that should have been impossible. Commander Young Jinwoo, Jiho's grandson, stood beside Hae-jin as they watched the latest ship emerge from the construction bay. At 28, he had already proven himself a brilliant tactical mind, earning his rank through skill rather than his famous name. How many ships in the fleet now? Jinwoo asked. 2,000 Phantom-class vessels, Hae-jin replied, plus 15,000 standard warships, 40,000 support craft, and 600 mobile stations. If the Council ever finds us, we will be ready. Do you think they will? Jinwoo asked. It has been 25 years. Maybe they have forgotten about us. Hae-jin shook her head. Never underestimate fear. We frightened them enough to exile us. If they learn we survived and thrived, that fear will turn to panic. And panic makes people do stupid things. In the research district, Dr. Yoon Dae-ho was far older, but still working every day. His exotic matter research had revolutionized everything from power generation to medicine. Life expectancy in the Union had increased to 150 years. Diseases that once killed millions were now easily cured. Food was abundant, thanks to matter replication technology. His former assistant, Lee Sun-woo, now ran his own research division. Together, they had developed technology that allowed instant communication across any distance using quantum-entangled, exotic matter. The Union's worlds were connected by a network the Council's fastest ships would take months to traverse. But their latest project was their most ambitious yet. In a secure facility deep underground, they were building something called Project Aegis. If it worked, it would make the Union virtually impregnable. The defense grid is almost complete, Sun-woo reported during a briefing with the Union's leadership. We have placed nodes in every system. When activated, they will create an interlocking network of spatial barriers. Any hostile ship trying to enter our space will be redirected to empty space light years away. They will not even know what happened. Prime Minister Minji studied the specifications carefully. And, friendly ships? Their drives are coded to pass through freely, Yoon explained. We can also create corridors for visitors we trust. But any unauthorized vessel will find itself very lost, very quickly. Admiral Jiho listened to all of this with satisfaction. The scared refugees who fled into the darkness had become something powerful. They had not just survived, they had flourished in ways the Council never could have predicted. Life in the Union was good. The capital city of Nova Sol had grown to house 20 million people from a dozen different species. Markets bustled with trade goods from hundreds of worlds. Children of different species played together in parks, learning each other's languages and customs. Art and music from countless cultures blended into something new and beautiful. The farming worlds produced more food than they could eat, so it was shared freely with any species in need. The industrial worlds built ships and stations, then helped other species learn to build their own. The research stations made discoveries every day, and that knowledge was distributed to all Union members equally. There was no poverty in the Union, no starvation. No species was considered superior to another. Every voice had a say in how things were run. It was not perfect. There were still disputes and problems, but they were solved through discussion rather than force. Jiho often walked through the streets of Nova Sol, sometimes alone, sometimes with his daughter and grandchildren. People recognized him, but did not make a fuss. He was just another citizen, enjoying the peace he had helped create. One evening, Jinwoo found him sitting in a small park, watching children play. "Grandfather, you should be at the ceremony. They are dedicating the new orbital academy in your honor." "They can dedicate it without me," Jiho said with a smile. Human children playing with Krell children, with Tavan children, with species whose names I still cannot pronounce. 25 years ago, we were refugees, running for our lives. Now, we are home. Jinwoo sat beside his grandfather. "General Park wants me to brief the command staff on defensive scenarios. She says we should prepare for the possibility that the Council discovers us." "Heijin is wise to be prepared," Jiho said, "but I do not think we need to fear them anymore. Even if they find us, what can they do? We have technology centuries beyond theirs. We have allies they never knew existed. We have built something they could never destroy. But what if they try?" Jiho was quiet for a long moment, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. "Then we will defend ourselves. Not with anger or revenge, but with the strength we have earned through hardship. We will show them that exiling us was the greatest mistake they ever made. Not because we became monsters, but because we became better than they ever imagined possible." The years had taught Jiho patience. The young captain who stood defiantly before the Council was now an old admiral who understood that true strength came from building rather than destroying. The Union did not need to conquer the Council. They simply needed to exist, to thrive, to prove that there was a better way. In the Parliament chambers, the vote concluded. All three species were welcomed into the Union with unanimous approval. Celebrations erupted across the networks. On dozens of worlds, people from hundreds of species rejoiced that their community was growing stronger. Prime Minister Minji addressed the Union that night. Her speech was broadcast to every corner of their space. 25 years ago, we were exiles. Today, we are founders. We have built something unprecedented in galactic history. A true union of free peoples, working together, not out of fear, but out of hope. The Council cast us out because they feared what we might become. Let us prove them right to fear us. Not because we are monsters, but because we represent everything they are not. We are the future they could not imagine. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support flooded in from every world. Artists created works celebrating the Union's anniversary. Musicians composed symphonies blending the sounds of 38 different cultures. Children wrote essays about what the Union meant to them. Admiral Jiho watched it all from his apartment overlooking the city. His daughter brought his great-grandchildren to visit, babies born into a world of peace and plenty. They would never know the fear of exile, the desperation of those early years. They would grow up believing that cooperation between species was normal, that shared prosperity was the natural state of things. Maybe that was the greatest victory. Not the technology they had developed or the worlds they had settled, but the simple fact that an entire generation would grow up never knowing the hatred and division that had plagued the old galaxy. As the celebrations continued into the night, Jiho allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in decades: complete satisfaction. They had done it. Against all odds, despite every hardship, they had not just survived. They had created something worth surviving for. And if the Council ever found them, they would see that the humans they exiled had not become the threat they feared. They had become something far more dangerous to the Council's way of thinking. Living proof that their entire system was wrong. Scout Commander Tarnix had been exploring the edges of known space for 15 years. His job was simple: map new systems, identify resources, and report back to the Galactic Council. It was boring work, but Tarnix did not mind. He enjoyed the solitude of deep space. His ship drifted near the border of the Outer Rim, the region where humans had been exiled 28 years ago. Nobody ventured here anymore. The official reports said the humans had died out within 5 years, killed by the harsh conditions. Tarnix had no reason to doubt those reports. Then his sensors detected something impossible. At first, he thought it was a malfunction. His screens showed a massive structure ahead, something artificial and enormous. He ran the scans 3 more times. The results did not change. There was a station out here, far larger than anything the Council had ever built. Tarnix approached cautiously. His ship was small and unarmed, designed for exploration rather than combat. As he got closer, he saw more structures, dozens of stations orbiting a planet that looked green and blue and alive. Ships moved between them, sleek vessels that did not match any Council design. His communication system activated without him touching it. A voice spoke in perfect Council standard. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Outer Rim Union space. State your identity and purpose." Tarnix's hands shook as he replied, "This is Scout Commander Tarnix of the Galactic Council. I am on a routine mapping expedition. I did not know anyone lived out here." There was a pause. Then the voice responded, "Stand by for escort. Do not attempt to leave or activate any weapon systems. Comply, and you will not be harmed." 3 ships appeared around him, literally materializing from empty space. They were smaller than his vessel, but moved with precision that made his head spin. Before he could react, his ship's controls locked. He was caught. The escort brought him to the nearest station. Through his viewport, Tarnix saw things that should not exist. Ships that phased in and out of normal space, structures made from materials that bent light around them. Workers from species he recognized, and others he had never seen before. When he was brought before the station commander, Tarnix could barely speak. The commander was human. Humans, who were supposed to be extinct. Commander Young Jinwoo studied the Council scout with calm eyes. "You are far from home, Scout Commander. What brings you to the Rim?" "I was mapping," Tarnix stammered. "I did not know. The report said you were all dead. How is this possible?" Jinwoo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The Council cast us out and assumed we would die. They were wrong. We adapted. We survived. We built something new." Tarnix was kept comfortable but confined. He was given food and quarters while the humans decided what to do with him. During his captivity, he watched news broadcasts from the Union and could not believe what he saw. Humans living alongside dozens of other species. Cities that rivaled anything in Council space. Technology that seemed impossible. On Nova Sol, Prime Minister Choi Min-ji met with her advisors. "We knew this day would come eventually," she said. "The question is, what we do now. If we let him go, he will report everything to the Council. And if we keep him, They will send ships looking for him, General Park Heejin pointed out. Either way, they will learn. We exist. Young Jinwoo spoke up. Then let them learn. We have nothing to hide and nothing to fear. I say we send him back with a message. We want nothing from them, and we owe them nothing. They exiled us. We obeyed. Now they should stay in their space, and we will stay in ours. Admiral Jiho, ancient now at 90 years old but still consulted on important matters, nodded slowly. Jinwoo is right. We cannot hide forever. Better to control how they learn about us. Send the scout back, but make sure he understands exactly what we have become. The decision was made. Tarnix was taken on a tour of Nova Sol. He walked through markets selling goods from 300 systems. He saw hospitals using technology that could cure diseases considered terminal by council standards. He watched children from dozens of species learning together in schools that taught cooperation instead of competition. The sight that broke him was the memorial. A massive wall listing every human who had died during the Exodus and the early years of settlement. Millions of names carved in stone. Tarnix stood before it and finally understood the magnitude of what the council had done. These people died because of a vote, Jinwoo said quietly. Because 847 species decided that humans were too dangerous to exist near them. We did not choose exile. It was forced upon us. And yet, we do not seek revenge. We simply want to be left alone. Tarnix was sent back to council space in his own ship, unmolested, and carrying detailed data about the Union. The journey took him 3 weeks. Every day, he reviewed the information, trying to comprehend what he had witnessed. Humans had not just survived. They had thrived beyond anything the Council could have imagined. When he arrived at Unity Prime and presented his report, the Council chamber erupted in chaos. Species shouted over each other. Some called him a liar. Others demanded immediate military action. A few sat in stunned silence. Councillor Velthar, now ancient and bitter, refused to believe the evidence. This is some trick. Humans could not have survived, let alone built what you describe. It is impossible. But the data did not lie. High Chancellor Quinva, whose crystal form had dimmed with age, studied the reports carefully. Whether we like it or not, humanity exists. They have advanced beyond us. The question is, what we do about it? We must investigate, insisted one counselor. Send a delegation to confirm these claims. Velthar objected strenuously, but he was outvoted. The council prepared a delegation of 12 ships, representatives from the most powerful species. They would travel to the rim and assess the human situation. Military ships, of course, just in case. Commander Jinwoo detected the fleet long before it reached Union space. The Phantom fleet was already positioned and ready. He watched from his flagship as the council delegation approached the border. They brought warships, his tactical officer noted. Should we consider this a hostile act? They are scared, Jinwoo replied. Fear makes people cautious. Let us show them they have reason to be cautious, but no reason to be hostile. Target their weapons and propulsion systems only. Do not damage life support. The council ships never saw what hit them. One moment they were cruising toward the rim border. The next, their weapons went dead and their engines shut down. Alarms blared across all 12 ships as they realized they were completely helpless. Jinwoo's face appeared on their communication screens. Council delegation, you have entered Outer Rim Union space with military vessels. This is unwise. I am Commander Young Jinwoo of the Union Defense Force. Your weapons and engines are temporarily disabled. You are not in danger, but you are also not in control. We will escort you to Nova Sol, where you may speak with our leadership. Resist, and things will become unpleasant. Comply, and you will be treated as guests. Choose wisely. The delegation, helpless and shocked, complied. 3 phantom ships appeared around each of the 12 council vessels. The Union ships phased in and out of normal space casually, a demonstration of technology the Council could not match. The delegates were brought to Nova Sol and given the same tour Tarnix received, but on a grander scale. They walked through cities. They visited factories where exotic matter was refined into incredible materials. They saw shipyards building vessels that made their own fleet look like toys. Prime Minister Choi Min-ji met with them formally in the Parliament chambers. Behind her stood the representatives of 38 species, all part of the Union by choice. "You exiled us 28 years ago," Min-ji said calmly. "You voted to remove us from the galaxy because you feared what we might become. I am here to tell you that your fears were justified. But not in the way you imagined. We did not become conquerors. We did not build weapons to attack you. Instead, we built something you could never achieve. A true union of equals, working together for the common good." One of the delegates, a Velthar species member, spoke up angrily. "You threaten the stability of the galaxy. Your technology could destabilize everything we have built." "We threaten nothing," Min-ji replied. "We want nothing from you. No revenge for the exile. No demands for apologies. No territory in council space. We simply want to be left alone to continue building what we have started here." Is that too much to ask? The delegates were returned to their ships, systems restored, and escorted to the border. As they crossed back into council space, every one of them understood the same truth. Humanity had moved beyond the council's reach. They were no longer refugees or exiles. They were a power unto themselves. At Unity Prime, the council convened to discuss the delegation's report. The recordings and data left no room for doubt. Humanity had not just survived. They had leapfrogged ahead of the entire council in technology, prosperity, and unity. "What do we do?" one counselor asked. "They could destroy us if they wanted, but they do not want to," Quinva said thoughtfully. "That is what frightens me most. They have the power to take revenge, yet they ask only to be left alone. We exiled them, and they have proven our entire philosophy wrong. What does that say about us?" Velthar sat in his seat, old and defeated. The species he had sworn to protect from human danger was now far behind humans in every measurable way. His life's work had been based on a lie. The council passed a resolution. The Outer Rim Union was to be left alone. No trade, no contact, no interference. It was the same exile they had imposed on humanity. But now it was the council that was isolated by their own fear. Commander Jinwoo reported the council's decision to the Union leadership. "They will leave us alone," he said. "For now." Admiral Jiho smiled from his chair. At 90, he rarely left his home, but he still advised the younger generation. "For now is enough. We have proven what we needed to prove. The council knows we are not going anywhere. They know they cannot threaten us. And most importantly, they know they were wrong about us." "Is it enough, though?" Jinwoo asked. "They exiled us. They cost us millions of lives. Should we not demand more?" The old admiral shook his head. "Revenge is easy. Forgiveness is hard. Building something better is hardest of all. We have already won. Jinwoo, we won the moment we refused to become what they feared. Let them live with their shame. We will live with our success." The attack came without warning on a quiet morning in the border colonies. The colony of Hope's Landing had been established for only 7 years. 15 million people lived there. Mostly human families with some Krell and Tavan neighbors. Children were walking to school. Markets were opening for the day. Nobody expected anything unusual. Then the sky filled with ships. 5,000 council warships dropped out of hyperspace directly above the planet. Their weapons were already charged. The first salvo destroyed the planetary defense stations before anyone could react. The second salvo hit the cities. Hope's Landing died in fire. 15 million souls gone in 30 minutes. The attacking fleet moved to the next colony. Then the next. 3 worlds burned before the Union even knew they were under attack. Commander Young Jinwoo was in a strategy meeting on Nova Sol when the alerts came through. His blood ran cold as he watched the casualty reports climb. 2 million dead. 5 million. 10 million. 15 million. Who authorized this? He demanded. The council voted for non-interference. Who broke that agreement? Quote, the answer came quickly from intelligence sources. Councillor Velthar and 47 other species leaders had secretly assembled this fleet. They convinced militant factions that humanity still posed a threat. They promised a quick strike that would cripple the Union before it could respond. They were about to learn how wrong they were. General Park Hee-jin, now 70 years old, but still commanding the military, activated the Union's defense protocols. Within minutes, every military installation in Union space went to full alert. The Phantom Fleet, kept hidden and ready for exactly this scenario, began moving into position. They killed civilians, Hee-jin said, her voice shaking with controlled rage. Children, families, people who never threatened anyone. They will answer for this. Prime Minister Choi Min-ji addressed the Union with tears streaming down her face. 3 of our worlds have been attacked by Council forces. 2 million of our people are dead. This was not an act of war. This was murder. The Council has shown its true nature. Now, we will show ours. The Union did not respond immediately. For 3 agonizing days, the Council fleet continued its rampage, destroying 4 more border colonies. They thought the Union was paralyzed by fear. They thought wrong. Captain Han Suji commanded the experimental Wraith Fleet, 12 ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. She was Jinwoo's younger sister, only 32 but already recognized as the most talented pilot in the Union. Her ships were the cutting edge of their technology. Prototypes that could do things even other Union vessels could not. All ships, this is Wraith Leader, she transmitted to her fleet. We are going to show the Council what happens when they murder innocents. Target every military installation in their space. Shipyards, weapons, platforms, fleet bases. I want them all destroyed within 72 hours. No civilian targets. We are not murderers like them, but they need to learn they cannot touch us without consequences. The Wraith Fleet vanished from Union space and appeared simultaneously in 50 different Council systems. It should have been impossible. One ship cannot be in 50 places at once, but these ships existed partially in folded space, spreading their presence across multiple locations. The Council never knew what hit them. Weapons platforms exploded. Shipyards were reduced to scrap. Fleet bases were systematically destroyed. The Wraith ships appeared, fired with devastating accuracy, and vanished before return fire could be launched. Not a single Union vessel was damaged. Within 72 hours, the Council had lost 90% of its military infrastructure. Thousands of warships were destroyed or disabled. Their ability to project force was completely eliminated. And through it all, not a single civilian was harmed. Every target was purely military. Admiral Kim Tae-young, commanding the main Union fleet, watched the operation unfold with grim satisfaction. They wanted a war. Now they have one. But they are fighting on our terms, not theirs. The Council attack fleet, still rampaging through Union territory, suddenly found itself cut off from support. Their communication with Council space was jammed. Their supply lines were severed. And then, the main Union fleet appeared around them. 300 Union warships materialized from folded space, surrounding the 5,000 Council vessels. The size difference should have made the battle impossible for the Union, but size meant nothing when facing technology centuries more advanced. Commander Jinwoo broadcast on all frequencies, so everyone in both fleets could hear. Council forces, you have murdered 2 million Union citizens. You attacked without provocation, without warning, targeting civilians. We could destroy your entire fleet right now. Every ship, every person. But we are not like you. We do not murder innocents. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to designated holding areas. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply. 30 seconds of silence. Then, one by one, the Council ships powered down. They had seen what the Wraith fleet did to their infrastructure. They understood they were completely outmatched. Fighting would be suicide. The Union captured all 5,000 ships intact. Not a single Council crew member was killed. They were disarmed, their vessels were disabled, and they were moved to secure locations where they could do no more harm. But the Union was not finished. Admiral Taeyong took 300 ships to Unity Prime itself, the heart of Council space. The massive ring station, where the Council held its meetings, was surrounded within an hour. Defense platforms tried to activate but found their systems had been hacked days ago. They were useless. High Chancellor Quinn Va found herself staring at a screen showing Union warships in every direction. Commander Jin Woo's face appeared on the communication system. High Chancellor, the Outer Rim Union has a message for the Galactic Council. You exiled us because you feared we would become a threat. Then, when we built something beautiful in exile, you tried to destroy us. You murdered 2 million innocent people. Now you will face justice. Quinva's crystal form glowed with fear. What do you want? Surrender? Territory? Resources? We want the people responsible for this attack, Jinwoo said coldly. Councillor Velthar and the 47 leaders who authorized this massacre. Hand them over for trial. Pay reparations to the families of those killed. Or we will dismantle the council by force. You have 1 hour. 200 phrase. Work stages. It did not take an hour. 30 minutes later, Velthar and the other conspirators were brought to the Union ships in restraints. The old counselor looked defeated and broken. He had spent his entire life fearing humanity. Now that fear had become his destruction. Why did you do it? Jinwoo asked him face to face. We wanted nothing from you. We were content to be left alone. Why attack us? Velthar's voice was barely a whisper. Because you proved everything I believed was wrong. The council was built on the idea that stability requires control, that advancement must be regulated, that some species must be held back for the greater good. You showed that all of that was a lie. You thrived without our rules. You advanced beyond us in freedom. You united species we could not control. Every day you existed made the council look weak and foolish. I could not allow that. So you killed 2 million people to protect your pride? Jinwoo's voice dripped with disgust. You are worse than I imagined. The conspirators were taken to Nova Sol to stand trial. The Union broadcast the proceedings across all of space, both Union and Council. Every species could watch as the evidence was presented. The secret meetings, the false intelligence reports, the deliberate targeting of civilian populations. The verdicts were unanimous. Velthar and the other leaders were found guilty of crimes against sapient life. Their punishment was exile to a small, isolated planet where they would spend the rest of their lives cut off from civilization. The Union did not believe in execution, but these criminals would never harm anyone again. The reparations were paid. The Council transferred massive resources to the families of the victims. They also issued a formal apology, read by High Chancellor Quinva herself, broadcast to every world in the galaxy. The Galactic Council recognizes its grave error, Quinva said, her voice heavy with shame. We, exiled, humanity, out of fear. When that fear was proven unjustified, some among us chose murder over admitting we were wrong. 2 million innocent beings paid the price for our arrogance. We cannot undo what was done. We can only promise to do better. The Outer Rim Union has shown mercy we did not deserve. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they have shown us what true justice looks like. In the council chambers of Nova Sol, Prime Minister Choi Min-ji addressed the Union. Today we achieved a victory, but it tastes like ashes. We won the battle, But we lost 2 million souls. We showed the galaxy our strength, but we would trade it all to have those people back. Let this be a lesson. Power without wisdom leads only to suffering. The Council had power, but lacked wisdom. We will not make the same mistake. Admiral Jiho, now 91 and confined to his bed, watched the broadcasts from his home. His grandson sat beside him, holding his hand. Did we do the right thing? Jinwoo asked quietly. We could have destroyed the Council completely, taken over their space, built an empire. The old admiral smiled weakly. We did exactly what we needed to do. And most importantly, we did not become what they feared. That is the ultimate victory, Jinwoo. Not conquest, but staying true to who we are even when given the power to be monsters. The Union fleet withdrew from Council space, leaving the Council intact but humbled. The 5,000 captured warships were returned to their species, but only after being stripped of their weapon systems. The message was clear. The Union could have destroyed them, but chose not to. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Council species began requesting permission to join the Union. Not the powerful ones who had voted for exile, but the smaller species who had been oppressed by the Council's rigid hierarchy. They saw what the Union had built and wanted to be part of it. Prime Minister Minji consulted with Parliament about each request. We must be careful, she warned. We do not want to become conquerors in disguise. Anyone who joins us must do so freely, understanding that we offer partnership, not domination. The requests were evaluated carefully. Some were accepted, others were asked to wait until they were ready. But slowly, the Union began to grow not through military force but through the simple appeal of a better way of life. Captain Han Suji returned to Nova Sol as a hero. Parades were held in honor of the Wraith Fleet's incredible performance. But she felt no joy in the celebration. She had seen the ruins of Hope's Landing, walked among the ashes of homes and schools. We won, she told her brother. But winning a war still means people died. Still means children lost parents and parents lost children. I never want to do this again. Neither do I, Jinwoo agreed. But we will if we must. That is the burden of power. We have to be ready to defend what we have built, even though using that power comes with a terrible cost. The war had lasted only 1 week, but its consequences would echo for generations. The Council had learned they could not threaten the Union. The Union had learned that even in victory, war brought only pain. And the galaxy had learned that the species exiled as dangerous had become something far more threatening to the old order, living proof that there was a better way.